Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to wherever you are watching or listening from. My name is Jamie Robinson, and welcome to episode 261 of the Wakefield Trinity Heritage Podcast, proudly sponsored by the New Inn Pub and Restaurant at Wakefield in Walton. We're going to dive straight into this week's Trinity BACKCHAT. Dad, as Wakefield Trinity beat Hull FC at home at the DIY Kitchen Stadium 14-10 in Super League Round 4. This is going to be a stressful season, isn't it? If all the games are going to be this close.
By golly, it was, wasn't it? I thought for the first half, I thought we weren't in it at all. And we weren't in it until, bang on half time. The clock had gone. It were on 40 minutes when we got that lucky bounce. And then the second half, we were in total control, even though we only scored 4 points. But yeah, what a game. I wasn't confident until the final whistle went at 14-10. Anything could have happened, but it's great. Hull are a champion side. The first victory against Hull since August 2022.
Yeah, Wakefield Trinity 14, Hull FC 10. Will Tate got two tries along with Ollie Pratt getting a singular one. Assist makers, Jack Sinfield got one, Jake Truman got one, and Corey Hall got one. Jack Sinfield got 1 out of 4 conversions. And our Ken rolling points, Jack Sinfield got one, Harvey Smith got two, and that man, Jake Truman, got three. So, Dad, obviously, I'll just pass to you initially. Just give us your brief oversight on how you think the game went, and obviously 2 points to 2 points and a 4 point victory over Hull FC.
It was like it's strangely a bit like two different halves, wasn't it? Because I thought in the first half, I thought all were in total control. They look better than us. All the statistics went their way. The possession and the runs, the meters, the tackles, the errors, the penalties, everything seemed to go Hull's way, and they looked in control. But that's when Aidan Caesar and John Asiata were on the field and looked well. They looked dangerous, didn't they? And every time they were first man, second man, and we were just sort of not so much clinging on, but we were the way they were playing. I thought it's going to be a tough afternoon, especially we were giving balls away, we were giving penalties away, we were giving penalties away when we had the ball in our hand. And then it all changed, didn't it? That bounce of the ball at half time, we went in 10 all. Second half, we were in total control. And I was watching Hull, and I wasn't going to say it to you because I didn't want to tempt fate, but they were just fading. You could actually see them fading. They were getting tired. Um, Caesar wasn't as busy as he was. Asiata had come off. We saw him in front of us limping around on the side of the field with his knee strapped up. He came back on, always dangerous. Their forwards were wilting. We just kept going. When you look at our workload, we'll talk about them later on, but the stats on our backline especially, and the forwards, there were only Harvey Smith who did a full 80 minutes. He rotated his pack quite well. So yeah, a game of two different halves. Second half we defended like Trojans. We could probably do better in attack because we only got one try. We could have done more, but at the end of the day, you can't knock a 14-10 home win over Hull.
Stats wise, possession 53% to Wakefield Trinity and Hull FC 47. We had 3 more minutes with the ball than Hull FC did. Completion wise, Hull FC had 78%. Wakefield Trinity 87% completion, our best so far this year. We only had 3 incomplete sets in both halves, so obviously it's something every rugby league team talks about. Really, they want to be completing at high percentages, and Wakefield Trinity did exactly that last night. We had more runs, we had more meters, and we had more post contact meters than Hull. All quite close, actually, all of them. It was a fairly even split of the ball. But yeah, post contact meters, especially, we had 620. Hull FC had 573. We had more line breaks compared to Hull, 4 versus 3. And errors, we had less errors. We had 5 errors. Hull FC had 9. And we actually had more missed tackles. Wakefield had 33 missed tackles, and Hull FC 28. Hull FC will be wounded that they've only missed 28 tackles yet still not won the game. So yeah, it'd be a disappointing night for the pink strip or salmon strip. I think more than anything, salmon and black Hull FC. That initially again, nice, always nice to have an evening game at Bellevue Thursday night. A little bit chilly, but a little bit of a spring air in it as well. And we had the fireworks and things as well. But in the build up, obviously, in the Bellevue breakdown with Mike Butcher, we a lot of our worries were kind of coming true at points, weren't they? We won't talk too negative because we're going to talk about what went really well. But John Asiata, Aidan Caesar's kicking game, Hull have got quite a big, pacey back line. But ultimately, we just stuck it out and were resilient, and we were quite united by the end, weren't we?
We were very much so, and I also thought before kickoff, but we're going to the match today, and I thought we'll be all right today. I think with the team we can put out, because I predicted we won't make too many changes. I thought we'd have the same back line as Warrington, sort the hooker out whether it's Harvey or Tavanga, and then you're either going to bring Rodwell or Alessi off the bench. That was my prediction. And with all the injuries Hull had got, I thought, well, we'll never have a better time of beating Hull. And then when I sat down 2 hours before the match and saw all the changes, and it's like, oh, what's he done that for? He knows better than me, does Darryl Powell, but Max has gone, Joshua Hawk's in. Will Tate's back on the wing. Oliver Pratt's in the centre. Cam Scott's been relegated to the bench. Matty Staunton's not even in the team. He's on the 18th man, and Kyle Rodwell's at 10, and Harvey's starting at 9. And I'm thinking, oh dear, it's like what's happening here? I thought we just sort of got a settled team, but I thought, well, Mac and Darryl knows better than us, like I've just said, and he's still looking for that settled team. We've had so many different wing partnerships this season. We've only had 5 games, including the Swinton game. But yeah, and it worked, didn't it? So it's so easy just to sort of be quite negative before the game when you see the team. But whatever he did, it worked. And yeah, didn't we look at a united bunch at the end? I thought our forwards yesterday well, how many did we have? Well, uh, all 9 of them, 10 of them who came off, they kept rotating round. I just thought they were outstanding, every one of them. Kai Rodwell only had 17 minutes, but in that 17 minutes, he did some work as well. Obviously, you might mention the stats as we go along, but he didn't come back on. But the rest of them, I thought they were outstanding. And then with that back line, we'll talk about the stats of the back line as well. So the whole 17 players, I thought we were a right united bunch yesterday.
Yeah, the most pleasing signs for me was us kind of returning to that 2025 form of effort areas being high and the 1% players being high and like I said, a real united front. Not that I ever really thought we were disjointed or we weren't getting along or the efforts were low. We've mentioned before. It was like the most worrying signs were that we were generally a bit all over the place and kind of certain effort areas weren't there. But last night we seemed to fight for each other and we kind of regained that resilience tag that we've had under Powell since the championship year, obviously, but last year especially, we got through some games by having really tough, rugged goal line defense, being really resilient and fighting for each other. It's quite easy to do the flashy stuff in rugby league sometimes, making the meters and making sure you're in the right place at the right time and giving out a good pass when you need to. But it's doing the hard stuff over and over and over and over again in rugby league that makes you a really good player, makes you having a real good side, left or right side or in the middle, and it makes you a really good team. Even stuff like making it back to the 10, not giving any offsides, leading the line speed really well, kick pressures, kick chase, being the third man in tackles to tie up a loose ball or get a bloke down to his knees or on his back. We did all that so well last night, and we did it excellently last year. There's some of those areas that I feel have been taken away a little bit with the change in the rules. Obviously, the third man in is less so now that the tackles are being held quite quickly. But I think we did everything else so well, which I will touch on. I said already, obviously, Mike Buckshire that we had on the Bellevue breakdown spoke about how vital Aidan Caesar's kicking game is. He can kick them high, he can kick them long, he can kick them short, he can kick them really precise. They call them these box kicks where you're ideally trying to get them in the box between the 10-meter line and your goal line, so that ideally, the opposition winger or fullback is going to catch them and open themselves up to being pushed back behind the 10-meter line, and the other team aren't going to give away a 7 tackle set. He's really good at those, and he did a couple of good those last night. But with those type of kickers, the one thing you need to focus on, again, we've talked about 1% players in effort areas, is kick pressure. And last night, the amount of times, it's probably why my voice is so hoarse today, that I was congratulating people like McMeekin, Tavanga, Harvey Smith, Pitsy, was because the kick pressure was so good. Aidan Caesar and Jacob Arthur didn't have a second to breathe when they were doing these in play kicks. Even there was actually even one time when Jacob Arthur ended up kicking the ball out straight away because I think it was Harvey Smith and Mike McMeekin. The kick pressure was so good. And again, it's the little things that sometimes you miss as a fan or even as a coach. But you see it again. Again, you talk about these 1% players. It would be very easy not to do. You can easily stay at marker, easily stay in the defensive line, wait for the kick to go, follow it back, and start your set again. But Mike McMeekin actually did it twice, I think, last year. Once against Lee and once against someone else, I can't remember. He actually charged the ball down. His kick pressure was that good, and that's a real hidden gem of Mike Meekin's game. Um, so yeah, we've actually got the stat. When we get given so many brilliant stats that we try and highlight quite a lot on here. We even get kick pressure stats. How many kick pressures we had individually as a team and compared to Hull. And I'm not saying this is all in relation to effort areas and it changed the game, but Hull FC had 14 individual kick pressures and we had 22. So again, it shows that we're eight more kick pressures and eight more areas of effort in the field, pressure in the kicker. And it's a really underrated skill in rugby league is kicking under pressure because you've got, one, two, three, 15 to 20 stone blokes running at you at pace, and you've got to try and kick on target at the right time accurately. Really, really good. So I was so impressed with that. Keep an eye out for Mike Meekin is a gem at doing it. So keep an eye out next time you go to a Trinity game for these kick pressures. Another thing I just want to touch on in terms of effort areas, Dad, is our line speed. I spoke about it with you last night. Offsides are what they are, and very rarely will I shout too much for an offside to because the referee's up and down really more than anything else. It doesn't really decide too much. Yeah, just because you never know with offsides. A lot of referees monitor it one way. They might go back 11 meters. They might go back a certain period and then step forward, as Ben Thaler said in our podcast last year. But what you do need is a defensive line, is line speed. And again, it's exactly the same as a kick pressure. You need to be up there, putting pressure on first receiver, second receiver, the guy running the ball. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have to be in charge of leading the line. Usually, the guys who lead the line are the ones in the middle. So hooker, two props, and the loose forward. And what Jazz Tavanga did last night, he just proved what upbringing he's had because New Zealand and Australia, you get impatient if you're not leading the line too well. And I thought he led the line so well last night for how rusty he kind of is still. He didn't play any of the pre-seasons games. He came over late after Christmas as well because he played for Samoa. And he's only been having short minutes, and he's just showing how intense he really can be in the defensive line. Again, I keep mentioning these boys, but along with Harvey Smith and Mike McMeekin, they were absolutely brilliant at this. You've got to be so focused and so fit and constantly at it throughout the game. Jay Pitts as well, he's done it for 20 years. It puts a real statement of intent on the opposition. And just shows how to get it done. Again, once again, if you next Trinity game you watch, our line speed was really good, and it just puts that extra bit of pressure. So, Dad, I was just so impressed with our kick pressure and our line speed and our kick chase as well. We showed it last week at Warrington, but we're just showing that you've got to be fit and you've got to be physical for it. But a lot of it is psychological and effort areas into it, and we showed that last night.
Absolutely, yeah. If you just watch it on YouTube the screen suddenly froze for 10 seconds, Jamie's froze. We do apologise, but we're back to as we were. Yep, exactly. That line speed off the line is getting better, isn't it? We're in game 4 of the league season, game 5 overall. It was a little bit clunky to start off the season, but we're learning, aren't we? And is that line speed, like you just said, Jazz Tavanga is the first off the line and takes it up. The referee pinged a few. He lets a lot go, and then it is annoying when suddenly after we've been playing for an hour, and then he starts pinging offside. But that's the game, isn't it? But yeah, we've got to do it now, haven't we? I was watching in the middle, our middles, like you say, when Meekin and Rodwell were in the middle with Harvey, and then your Caius and your Caleb coming off the bench. And then Tavanga as well. Out wide you've got Pitsy, and then even and Jake Truman and Sinfield on the edges. There was no space out wide, and that was suddenly we're a lot faster off that line. When a Hull are attacking, and that certainly helped in the second half, especially. We stopped Hull scoring for 55 minutes. They scored their second try in 25 minutes. So we stopped them scoring for almost an hour through a lot of that tactics just because they couldn't get through us. And they wilted and tired as the second half progressed because we got stuck into them so much.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's funny 'cause last week as well, we actually spoke about a few selection choices and everything we actually kind of said came to fruition this week. We were talking about how we if we're going to go with someone like Staunton or Vanganar on the bench, it's ideally we're not going to put them on a prop because I just don't think the props really, and I'm not sure what Staunton is. But Vanganar's definitely not a prop. And this week, Staunton starts at 18, and Rodwell starts, even though he didn't return in the end. He only played 25 minutes, I think it was. But I think it very much suited us having Hamlin, Welly, and Caius off the bench, McMeekin and Rodwell starting, who are our two robot, technical, brilliant athletes, and then Caius and Caleb can come off the bench and bash a few blokes, get a quick play the balls and get us up the pitch a bit more. But I think our middles have just been getting better and better every week. Again, it's something we spoke about. We thought we got bullied against Toulouse, we got a little bit outmuscled against Huddersfield, but kept in it. And I thought even last week, obviously we lost the game against Warrington, but we were far better and had a lot more energy. This week, I think we absolutely bashed Hull. I don't think there was any opposite number. You could look at. John Asiata, he was really strong in the tackle, but I'd even say even Jazz and Pitsy kept up with him. Um, and our middles, Mike McMeekin got 174 meters from 17 runs. Caleb Hamlin-Welly 153 meters, and Caius 111 meters. Rodwell did only, like I say, unfortunately didn't play too many minutes. I'm not sure if he picked up a knock or what happened there. But everyone will talk about like Sam Lasone. He spoke about him last year as well. He don't play big minutes, but he tries to be impactful. Made 49 meters overall. Harvey Hill 28 meters, and Liggy Sow made 70 meters. Yusuf Aydin was really impressive. He actually made 120 plus meters. Obviously, ex-Wakefield youth player. And yeah, Hull just weren't that impressive up the middle, I don't think. I think they tired quite quickly. And as well, Pitsy coming on and playing big minutes in the middle of the game really strengthened us up a bit. I think having a veteran head on, even though Jazz obviously is a veteran head, I think bringing Pitsy on in the middle actually helps us quite a bit because if we're starting to tire a little bit towards half time, if you can bring on a fresh Jay Pitts who can take the ball in a bit more, and be quite tight and strong in defence. It's probably the first time I've felt we've dominated another pack this year, Dad. So again, he's much more. It's a shame it's taken 4 games or a handful of games to get back to our 2025 form. But it looks like we're getting there now with the effort areas, the 1%ers, and our pack being a bit more dominant now.
Absolutely. And I think it's again, we mentioned it in our fans forum maybe a month ago. Erin brought it up about how big and immobile the whole pack was. Will they sort of fit into these new rules? And I think every team's going to fit into these new rules sometimes, but they were a big pack, weren't they? It was like, especially when the teams came out, I'm thinking, oh God, yeah, they've got a good, heavy, big subs bench tonight. But Lissoni and Liggy Sow, they were. I won't say they're too big, that's the wrong word, but they're so tired and we got stuck into them. Where our pack suddenly looked very mobile. It's like Caius and Caleb, by golly, aren't they? So a couple of athletes. I'm also not growing into, because growing into is the wrong word. Seth and Isaiah in the second row, Nekatimo and Vanganar, if they can stay fit and the season progresses, we've got a great second row partnership there as out wide. They're two big, strong runners. Yes, they do tackle. Yes, they've got errors in them. But I was watching them last night, and they got stuck in to their opposite numbers, Connor Bailey and Brad Fash. Brad Fash is a bit of a grub, and I mean grub in a very polite way. But he's a sort of player that every team needs. But he was sort of holding on and causing trouble, and he caused that trouble when McMeekin got penalised with a ball in his hand, come up with a bloodied nose. But he's that sort of player. But I just thought Nicotimo and Vanganar yesterday out wide. I just thought, yeah, they're growing. The coming of those two. And if they can stay fit, they're going to be some great outside runners when the track gets a little bit drier and the sun comes out. I don't know where Matty Staunton fits into all that. But yeah, just looking at our pack, we just looked a lot more fitter. We looked a lot more mobile. And I said it already, that second half, we were so in control. Obviously the attack can be a little bit better because we need to score more tries somewhere down the line. But when it comes to defence and getting stuck into that whole pack, and we knocked 7 bells out of them, and they disappeared, didn't they? Harvey Hill was he's not a big heavyweight. Youssef's not a big heavyweight, but we got stuck into those two, and they came on for the last 20 minutes. They didn't really give Hull much because we just hammered them and got stuck into them, and great to watch.
Yeah, I end up sounding like a bit of a broken record as well, but I still think we missed Tom Johnston. But last night again, we improved more, and I think our back five was the best that we've had, especially kind of in the fullback role in terms of making meters forward. Josh Rock just under 200 meters last night, 195 meters. Will Tate 206, Corey Hall 167, Ollie Pratt 110, and Jaden Myers 124, all hitting their marks really now. And you see these modern, I say modern, it's probably been the past 10 years now that they call them kind of get out sets or backfield sets. And that kind of what saves the energy and the hard grafting defense that the middles have been doing throughout the past couple of sets. And if you can get some quick, pacey wingers out the back, it doesn't have to make life a lot easier. If you can get us over the halfway line, we can get a good kick in and we can win a bit of territory. Will Tate made 23 runs, 23 carries throughout the game for 206 meters. Josh Rock 21 runs, Corey Hall 17, Jaden Myers 14, and Ollie Pratt 13. So again, brilliant. Hull FC were brilliant actually as well, coming out the backfield. They had two blocks over 200, and they made some big meters. It's a key indicator for pretty much every team in Super League now, every professional team anyway. So Johnston is obviously our benchmark. He's the guy who's making 200 meters every week, and he's probably coming to 12, 13, 14, 15 runs as well. Dad, what did you actually think of Josh Rock at fullback? It was a surprise to a lot of people. We spoke a little bit about what Max lacks and what he brings to the team. But again, off this performance, it's probably going to be Rock next week, isn't it, for Leeds at home?
It is. I think I was quite sad when I saw that Max had been dropped because, yeah, Max has he's had an okay season. He's had his ups and downs, and he's got his errors in him. And when it comes to that, the meters gained, we all know what Max does. So I was a bit initially shocked and a bit sad to see him not there. But yeah, Josh stepped up, didn't he? He was very active. And then when the stats came through this morning, I was gobsmacked and saw the stats of that back five. And Joshua 195 meters with his 21 runs, outstanding, wasn't it? And he didn't make an error at all at the back. Nothing got through him. He linked up well, but made those yards. It's like when you look at every full back that's been playing in Super League this season, they put their head down and go and look for the gap, and Joshua Hawk did. And he's still got that thing. He's going to come off again this season, isn't he? When there's an up and under, and he's going to race through. He did it two or three times. Zach Hardacre seemed to suss it out, and he blocked him every time. And that peeved me a little bit because the referee was hit and miss and stop and start with his decisions. And that's a penalty that's never picked up. And they step into the line. They can see Rourke coming through. Hardacre steps into the line where he's coming, blocks him, and then David Layton catches it neat and he's off. And there were three of those, and not one was penalised. But one will come off, and he'll get a try somewhere down the line. Will Josh?
Yeah, it's difficult with Max. Again, we're very fortunate. We've got two very good fullbacks, and I think I said something last year when they were going through between Rourke and Jowett. It could very much be a tactic for the game. Rourke played last year against Hull FC. If it's a game that you're looking at getting a bit more meters at a backfield and a bit more energy, then you're probably going to pick Rourke. But if you're looking at one thing that Max has got that is actually almost irreplaceable sometimes is that is a scoreboard influencer. Obviously you look at the championship season, which was a bit of a skewed season for us anyway, but he's always up there. We try scored, assists, goal kicking as well is massive one as well. And obviously as good as the game Jack Sinfield had last night, I don't think Max would be hitting a 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 game. He's always handy for a 2-point pickup as well. So if Jarrett's back in next week, I could understand it. He's obviously a safe pair of hands. He's under the high ball and with the ball in hand. But if it's one of those where if fullbacks are now going to be compared for meters gained and especially big efforts coming out of backfield, is probably going to be lacking a little bit. And I do think he would have probably scored the try where Truey made the break and give it to Rourke, and Rourke got tackled before the try line because that's also Max's his strong area as well. His push support and really getting up behind someone's backside when we've made a break. But we kind of fortunate that Josh Rourke's strengths are Max's weaknesses, and Josh Rourke's weaknesses are Max's strengths. It's almost a shame we can't amalgamate them both together. But it's a great conundrum to have for Daryl Powell, and we can kind of cover him in both ways. But yeah, I think it was brilliant overall. performance from Josh Rourke, and I won't be surprised if he's again at fullback against Leeds in the Challenge Cup. Lastly, just before we move on to our Ken Rolling Point highlights, I think our kicking game was really good again, Dad. It's not really something we spoke about this year in terms of, sometimes it can be like, oh, our kicking game wasn't good, but I feel like every week we spoke about how impressive Truman and Sinfield have been. They share the duties as well. When Lino plays, he does the majority of kicks. And I don't know if that gets a bit tiresome, if it gets a bit monotonous for him. But every week, Truey and Sinfield have played together. They've pretty much shared him. And this week was exactly the same. Truman had 12 in play kicks, Sinfield had 9. And actually, again, funnily enough, I keep dropping his name. Mike Butcher is a good mate of the podcast. I spoke with him just before the game, and I said, I really hope we target the high bombs, not just for Josh Rourke, because obviously it's his speciality and it's his kind of party trick. But these real tall, swirling kicks in night games are really what can pepper fullback, especially if there's a little bit of a wind, a breeze, and if it's dark. And we obviously did it once where Rourke almost got the ball, he got blocked off. He did it twice when Pratty scored. Obviously, it was right under it. David Litton was nowhere near that, and Pratty scored it again. And he did it again in the second half where Hull didn't get anywhere near, and it bounced all over the place, and Rourke almost pipped him, and we just ended up not getting that one. But again, it's just so impressive, Dad. Our kicking game has been really good this year, and I thought Sinfield again was really calm and precise and well mannered with his kicking game, and it's just a kind of a delight to see. Really, I think both Truey and Sinfield's kicking games are excellent at the minute.
Yeah, very good, isn't it? I heard a quote on the NRL this morning. I love watching matches where Phil Gus Gould commentates, and he came up with a term: the kicks. You only kick as far as you can run and chase it. And I thought that's what we're doing now. We're not banging that. A few years ago, we'd kick it deep, and the fullback would get it, turn round, and there'd be 20 or 30 yards in front of him because we haven't moved up. Now we're either kicking short and we've got a good chase, or kicking high so we can actually chase them. And even though David Litton did run over 200 meters from fullback, and Briscoe and Lewis Martin on the wings also ran 100 odd, 200 odd meters, they didn't seem to have a lot of room when they didn't get the kicks. We were up there, so the kicks that went through were very good. Sometimes they went down the fullback or the winger's throat, and then you think, oh well, what was that all about? But our chase was that good. They didn't seem to have a lot of room, which is another aspect of the modern game, isn't it? It's so faster. So we've talked about our speed off the mark in defence. We've also got speed in attack as well when the ball's in the air and we're chasing quite well.
Yep, and last bit of positivity from me, and he deserves it because we give him, or I gave him a lot of stick and a lot of jip the other week, but I thought the stadium announcer was good. He got all the names right. He called us Wakefield Trinity. He seemed to have a bit of energy about him, and yeah, hopefully more of the same because it's an important job and fans really react well to it. So fair play to him. Ken Rolling points we've talked about: 1 to Jack Sinfield, 2 to Harvey Smith, and 3 to the man of the moment. He got the stadium and sponsors man of the match, Jake Truman. He's been my player of the season so far. I know it's only been a short season, 4 or 5 games. But last night I thought he was absolutely exceptional. And at times he's quite a sight to behold, actually, when he's in full motion, full flow. We talked about him last year. He obviously had that mini period where he was injured quite a bit. And he's a player that is, people call him almost like potential players. He's had so much talk about him being potentially this, potentially that, potentially an England player, potentially a man of steel, potentially, world beater. But I think, and a few people have said it, a lot of pundits have said it. We spoke to Steve Mills and he said it. And a lot of people said that 2026 is going to be the year of Jake Truman. Fingers crossed he stays injury free. And so far this year, we've got him at the top of our Ken Rolling points now after 5 games. And I think almost in a weird way, Lino being out injured and then obviously not being able to get back into the side has played into his hands a lot, figuratively and literally as a playmaker. What stands out to me is that he's just so keen to get his hands on the ball. And that's not to say he ever tried to hide, or any playmaker really hides, but sometimes it can be, it's a bit of a catch and pass exhibition, or you're trying to hide, not hide, but move behind it, or play the ball a little bit too much and you're overthinking things. But what you always hear, like pundits, especially Sam Tonkins mentioned it the other week, the best playmakers are the ones who just want to get their hands on the ball and see what they can make. Paul Cook actually said it on a podcast I listened to recently as well. And we have every single possible stat coming out of this game. And we even have a stat that says how many times each player touched the ball individually. Now, obviously, for obvious reasons, the hookers touched the ball the most. So Harvey Smith and Amir Burrow had the most touches in the game last night, over 100 touches. But Jake Truman was the third on the list with 59 touches of the ball. And again, compared to Jack Sinfield, Aiden Caesar, it was streets ahead of those boys as well. So just so keen and so eager to touch the ball on every opportunity, trying to make something happen. And I think he thrives off being that main man as well. Sometimes, again, people have said, oh, maybe it's Mason Leno's show and Truman's there to play the nice bits. But I think on his day, when he's got the ball in his hand and he's a playmaker and he's the main man and he's the maestro, he's almost unplayable. And I said this before on the podcast. Wally Lewis, and I'm sure many other people have said it, but Wally Lewis talks a lot about the best attacking players are the ones who can put doubt into the mind of the defender. John Asiata did it pretty much every touch last night. You don't know if he's going to pass. You don't know where he's going to pass. You don't know the way to the pass. You don't know how he's going to pass. You don't know if he's going to dummy. You don't know if he's going to run. You don't know. You don't know if he's going to kick. And the best I've ever seen is Jonathan Thurston, for example. You didn't know what he was going to do whatsoever. And Jake Truman has that ability. I remember at Magic last year, he was unplayable against Castleford. But I think last night, one thing I've not really seen loads of him do, even though he's got it in his locker, he added a running game to his repertoire. And he made 179 meters last night, which is, I'd say it's almost quite unheard of as a number six to be doing that, especially Wakefield Trinity. You've got the likes of George Williams and Bevan French do it on a weekly basis for Warrington and Wigan, and they've been kind of their benchmarks for a long time. If you're looking at the top of the food chain, it's Cameron Munster. He's making 200 metres every single week. And it's not just a case of grabbing the ball as a six and playing it like a fullback and trying to run every time. It's being smart. It's been knowing when to pass. It's knowing when to take on the line, engage a defender, and knowing when to spot a weak defender, a tired defender, or a gap. And True did that last night constantly, especially in the second half. He must have spotted something in the second half to think, I'm actually going to keep running this ball. I'm going to try and take on the line. I'm going to dummy. And he almost pretty much made 3 or 4 half breaks. He never really got a clean break, but he got through the line a little bit, quite a lot. He actually made 5 official tackle breaks overall, 179 metres. He got 1 line break and 2 offloads. When he was rolling the roost. And I actually turned to you last night, Dad, and said he's playing like Cameron Munster. For anybody that didn't see the game, like yesterday morning, Melbourne beat Parramatta by 50 points, and what Melbourne do, they've basically got a fullback in every playmaker position, and Harry Grant controls it from the ruck. And Cameron Munster and Jerome Hughes can run all day, and Jack Sinfield's not that type of player. But if Jake Truman's now adding a running game to his repertoire, he's going to be a bit unplayable. And just to round this off, Dad, before I pass back to you about Jake Truman, I actually messaged him on Instagram. I replied to one of his stories about the game last night. And I said to him, Jake Truman, Cameron Munster wears Jake Truman pajamas to bed. And he laughed at me, and we had a brief conversation back and forth. And I just said to him, I said, where did that come from last night? What's the running game, where's that come from? And he actually said to me that he was trying to make a conscious effort to run more as the game is speeding up. And I think that's the way the game will be going for halves. Such a smart bloke. Again, reads the game really well. It shows that he's intelligent. It shows that he's thinking about his style of play. Absolutely superb. And to top on top of all that, 20 tackles as well. So they're obviously targeting him a little bit. 20 tackles. Dad, best player on the pitch for me last night, and it just shows how smart he is to be thinking of that.
Yeah, I thought it was outstanding. It's funny how different people see the game differently because I've got relatives, cousins who are Hull fans, and they came over last night. So I saw them in the bar afterwards, and he turned to me and said, "Did you agree with Jake Truman getting man of the match?" I said, "Yeah, he was outstanding." He says, "Oh, I don't know. I didn't think he played that well." And I said, "It just shows you, doesn't it, how different people see the different game?" Because I thought that game was outstanding. Maybe we noticed more because obviously he plays on the left, and we were attacking the left hand. He was attacking the left hand corner where we were sitting in the east stand yesterday. So we saw every move, we saw every break, we saw every pass. And we should have kept that little break where he made a break. He went round Zach Hardaker as though he wasn't there, and he just kept going and kept going and kept going, looking for Josh Rourke on his inside, and then he gave it maybe a little bit too early. Looking back on television, if he'd have done it and gone, he'd have scored. And I wish he would have done. But yeah, I just thought he was outstanding. Like you say, you turned to me last night and said he's playing like Cam Munster because he's just running. he's taking the ball and running every time. And that tired whole defense on the left hand side, he went through them time and time again, and it was. And then even if he didn't, he was looking for the offload. Sometimes it came on, sometimes it came off, sometimes it didn't. But yeah, he got a new sidekick as well, and he Jack's infield on the right edge. So they're clicking really well together at the moment.
Yeah, it's funny. 'Cause Aaron Bauer, who's a journalist I respect quite a lot, and I enjoy his podcast with Matt Shaw's now. He gave ratings last night, and it's funny. I'm not going to kick off about people's ratings because people kick off about ours, and I get confused. But he gave him a 6 out of 10 and said that is at risk of losing his spot in the team. And I'm like, God, I'm just not sure what you're watching because he's been our best player easily this year, and he's just making us tick. So. Yeah, I don't think Daryl Powell thinks that, and I think that's the most important thing. Just we'll talk about Jack Sinfield briefly. He got the 1 point for us for the Ken Rolling points. 3 weeks in a row now, he's got points from us. I think he's got back-to-back fans player of the week on social media as well. He won't be far behind with this. He got the Sky Man of the match. What more can be said about him? We said talked about him a lot. He's just such a tidy player, Dad. I keep saying he don't make a mistake. He's very suited to Truman. He's very calm, very composed. He got himself another assist last night. And we spoke about his defense. The teams are targeting him. Made another 15 tackles last night. I wonder if they're going to just stop targeting him soon. And I'm just really enjoying watching him play. He's not only actually giving Lino competition now, but Lino was fit last night, and he can't get in. So he's at the minute. Sinfield's is the number 7 shirt is his, and at the time of play, it might be something to talk about on the fans forum. Sinfield's the only one out of him and Lino who's got a contract for next year. So is that going to affect it that much? Because if he carries on the way he is now, we've got a halfback for the next 10 years in Sinfield. He's absolutely brilliant. So again, you were impressed again last night with Sinfield.
He reads the game well. I think that's what the thing with what I notice is he seems to be one step ahead of some other players. I mentioned the try at Warrington last week when he kicked for Ollie Pratt, and he seemed to be 5 minutes ahead of everybody else. Similar last night, the pass he gave to Will Tate for Tate's first try, thought it was a beauty. He read that, and I think he cut out pass, and Will Tate walked in because he created such space. So yeah, he's very calm, very level-headed, reads the game well. He's only a kid as well, isn't he? So you can't drop him at the moment. Poor old Mason, I don't know when he's going to fit back in again. But does he persist? Sometimes you get these young kids, you just don't want to play them every week. There might be a week somewhere down the line where he might just think, right, I'm going to give you a break and put Mason back in. But at the moment, like you say, he back-to-back man of the matches through the club. He actually got the Sky man of the match last night as well.
Yeah, massive week, massive game for him next week against Leeds, just to show him what they've been missing. And then got our 2 points. I thought it was brilliant all night. Harvey Smith started at 9, played a full 80 minutes. Is that his first full 80 minutes in Super League, Dad? Do you know?
Probably because there's not
Yeah.
many hookers do 80 minutes anymore. I was going to look and see when the last time we did have a hooker that did 80 minutes, and I've no idea because we always have a hooker on the bench and rotate. So hookers don't do 80 minutes anymore.
I feel like he might have done an 80 or someone did an 80 when we played Championship and it wasn't as intense. But Super League, it's unbelievable what he did last night. Again, consider how old is he, Dad? 2021?
20 just turned 20 in January.
Yes, that's
Mm.
that's incredible, really. Especially again, we spoke about the size and the ferocity that the Hull FC pack have. At that age, I struggle to think actually. Your memory's way bigger than mine for Trinity. I struggle to think of a player who's come through the youth system, especially in my lifetime, broken onto the scene so well at 17, 18, held his place, won his place. He's obviously because initially he was behind Tommy Doyle and he was behind Liam Hood. There's no argument whatsoever now that he's ahead of Tommy Doyle in the pecking order. Obviously, Tyson Smoothie's come in, and I wouldn't even say he's behind Tyson Smoothie. I'd just say he's alongside Tyson Smoothie now. He's spoken about by pundits really well. I can't see it being too long before he's been spoken about for England. If it was still a thing, I feel like he'd be in England Knights contention. I don't know if that's still a thing. But he was absolutely brilliant last night, wasn't he, Dad? And there wasn't, I think that the best compliment I compared to him, I think I've said it before, he don't look out of place. We know as, he's still a young kid from Wakefield who's trying his hardest, and obviously is working his socks off. But it's that classic thing. If you bring in an alien and briefly explain to him about rugby league, you won't know that he was a 20-year-old kid who's still trying to find his way in the Super League starting 17. It was absolutely brilliant last night, and I felt like he had a few missed tackles, and he got bumped off by Lissoni a couple of times, and I think he was semi at fault when Lewis Martin made that break from backfield. But I can kind of let that go when you're a smaller young hooker playing 80 minutes in the middle. And equally, he made 46 tackles himself. He made the most for Wakefield. I can let go a few missed tackles. And the boys seem to love him as well. I thought he outplayed Amir Burrow and Cade Cuss when they were actually on the field. Again, I've spoke about his line speed, and he's just turned into a real smart player. So impressed with him. Wakefield lad, Wakefield through and through, Dad. So brilliant, just superb to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to mention when you talk about in your lifetime, no hookers have come through. I'm going to throw the name out, Billy Conway, because Billy's an old mate of mine. He was when I was the physio there. Billy made his debut at 17. We're talking 40 years ago now, 1984. But Billy started as a 17, 18-year-old. He's following and Harvey's following the same path as Billy did. Now, but a different age, different era, obviously. But Billy was a little man in a big world when you got your big forwards around, and Billy took some hammer. I carried him off with broken cheekbones and broken noses and all sorts. Same sort of character, obviously a bit tougher and a bit different these days. Billy was an ex-boxer as well, so he could look after himself. And he stayed 12, 13, 14 years, did Billy. So that's the sort of, when I watch Harvey play, I just think it's like watching Billy all over again. Before I sign off, I just want to give a shout to our captain, Magic Mike. He sent some stickers, Mike McMeekin, on social media over the last few months, over the last few weeks. It doesn't look as though he's been at the races. And even last night when he was playing, he looked shattered after 20 minutes. He was bent over double. I'm not surprised because the workload this fella's doing is unbelievable. He was on for 64 minutes. 174 meters, 33 tackles. That's the most meters by any forward this season, the most tackles by any forward this season. He's our captain, fantastic, and he's getting there. When you bear in mind he didn't have a great off season because he was obviously had his England matches. They give him a break. He tweaked. He got a bit of a tweak in pre-season, so he didn't have a great off season. But he's getting there, and he's only going to get better. And the pack round him at the moment, it's quite exciting where we're going to go. It's only a short, a narrow victory over Hull. And I seem to have walked away getting a little bit excited, but I was a bit excited by our pack last night and where we're going to go as the season progressed. But I think Mike is our leader, and I thought he had a stormer last night when you look at the stats and the workload he did in his hour on the field.
Yeah, it was difficult to pick a 3-2-1. I think Truman and Smith were always our top two, but we spoke about Sinfield, McMeekin. I think if Jazz would have played maybe an extra 10 minutes, he'd have made it because I thought he was excellent. But I'd love to see him hit kind of 60 minutes at one point. Pitsy, again, as always, was brilliant. Corey Hall was excellent. Josh Rourke. There weren't many boys who we didn't talk about. So, yeah, Mike McMeekin. And I actually mentioned that on the Bellevue breakdown. I think he'll have a big game and get back to his normal ways, and he did exactly that. Just going into the Leeds game, Dad, a couple of things we'd like us to tidy up on and just try and improve on. Daft penalties again. We didn't give away too many actually compared to the previous weeks, but two tackles in and we stripped the ball off Brad Fash. That wasn't a referee thing. That wasn't a fatigue thing. That was, I was almost going to say stupidity, but that was just really brash and really daft. And rugby league's hard enough anyway to give away that many free meters. Unfortunately, it didn't come off. But Powell won't be happy with that. I think it was Seth Nicotima wanted to rip the ball. Two tackles into the game. We were 10 seconds in. We can't be doing that if we want to be, fighting for playoff rugby league.
Absolutely not, no. And it's just those penalties. I think we gave away three penalties last night when we had the ball in our hand. One of those was McMeekin's when Brad Fash, he did well, Fash there, didn't he? Because I thought Fash held on to McMeekin that wound him up. I know you can't smack people in the mouth anymore, so that was fair enough. And we lost another one when we had the ball on our own line. And I think it was either Romano or Hardacre. And we're looking back on telly, Corey Hall Was it Corey Hall or Ollie
It
Pratt?
was
One of the centre.
It was Corey Hall, yeah.
Yeah, he grabbed his leg and he fell over. Did Romano, and it was just like, oh well, he made a dive, but it's just things like that, and we give the ball away on our own line. So yes, it's just those silly errors when we've got giving penalties away when we've actually got the ball in our hand.
It was daft then because equally the letter of the law again. My man making you can't strike someone in the face. Corey Hall, you can't tug on someone's ankle. But I just feel like with them, Brad Fash was caught up on him, and Romano, or I think it was Romano, took a bit of a dive. As a referee, surely there you just say play on, get back to
Mm.
it. Let McMeekin get the ball off Fash. Let Romano get up. Everyone get in position. Just play on. I just feel like it was just daft just to penalise us on both. And it sounds like I'm saying this because it happened to Wakefield. I still think I've not fully watched it back. I think we were lucky for that last try. That looked like a forward pass from Corey Hall to Will Tate. A few people watched it back and said that it wasn't, and it goes both ways. But I just never really understand those decisions to penalise them. Anybody in any game, not just Wakefield players, just get up and play on because there was enough rubbish last night with all the technology, and obviously it wasn't anything on that poor touch judge. He was getting some right stick, and it was obviously the technology that was a problem. Um, and it already makes us look a bit tin pot. So for the referees to start picking up on stuff like that, just play on, just get back to a normal routine and just play on for me. And the last thing we mentioned the bench last week, and I think it was a massive improvement. But apart from Jake Truman, Cam Scott's been our best player this year for me. I think he's been absolutely destructive in the centre position, and he's probably our best defender on an edge. And I didn't fully get why he was benched, whether it was a tactical thing or whether he preferred Tate in the back line and he didn't want to give Pratt away and not have a game. But I think we've got to start Cam Scott. I feel like he's not that I'm saying he's not any good off the bench. I think he was actually brilliant off the bench last night. He had 5 runs in about 20 minutes and he made a couple of half breaks as well. I feel like we've just got to start and we've got to get him on the field. His bag's full of energy. He's keen as mustard, and he loves it, doesn't he? He loves the contact, and he's been brilliant this year. So my kind of outlandish call from we've kind of accidentally predicted that Rourke's going to start and the bench is going to be different. I wouldn't be surprised against Leeds if Nicotemo doesn't start and Scott does, and Scott's in the second row. Nicotemo made a few defensive errors again last night, and obviously that daft penalty 2 minutes in. That I'm unsure if Powell will be pleased with that. If he starts, is great. I've not got any qualms with that, but I just wouldn't be surprised if he's wanting to have Pratt and Hall in the centres again. Cam Scott's got to start for me. He's not done anything wrong to not get a 13, in the 13. So that would be my kind of outlandish pick. But otherwise, all good down at Bellevue, Dad, and 2 points on the board in Super League, and happy days.
Yeah, it's difficult to predict the team for the following week, isn't it? Because Daryl's not a tinker man, but in week 4 he's changing it every week. We can sit here and predict the team, like you say. Cam Scott needs to go in. I have a sneaky feeling I'd heard that Tom Johnson might be fit next week as well. So if Johnson's fit, who do you leave out? Tate. If Scott comes in, who do you leave out? Do you put Pratt back on the wing? I don't know. Obviously, Tyson Smooth is going to come back in, so Harvey's going to be on the bench. Or we're going to lose out of that team for Smoothie to come back in. So yeah, I'll leave that up to Daryl.
Very interesting. This Monday we've got our monthly fans forum coming up as well to talk all things Trinity. So tune in for that one as well. But thank you everybody for listening to episode 261 of the Wakefield Trinity Heritage Podcast. You can find us on podcasting platforms worldwide and follow us on Facebook under the Wakefield Trinity Heritage banner and all our social media platforms as well. As always, we're on YouTube now. Give us a wave. We have just hit, I think, 415 subscribers. Keep giving us a subscribe, a like, a view. Our next push is towards 450 as well. It all helps in the algorithm. Massive thank you to my co-host Lee Robinson. As said, we'll be back for the monthly fans forum next week. I've been Jamie Robinson, and we will catch you all down the road.